Welcome back to Better Buyer, your source for the latest consumer news, business reviews, and marketplace insights. I'm Jessica Goodrum, and this week I sat down with two Better Buyer colleagues to discuss our recent findings from the 2025 U.S. Chiropractic Care Satisfaction Study. So let's jump right in. Matt Scroggs and Matt McGinnis, thank you for joining me on the Better Buyer show today.
Yeah, you bet.
We have a study that we want to talk about today. There's some details involved. Matt, as the director of the study, I can't wait to see what information you have to share.
Yes,
And
lots of wisdom.
Lots of wisdom, of course. And then Matt McGinnis, as the head of all digital marketing at Better Buyer, I know that you have some really great insight as well.
Awesome insights that we found in this study in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get into the details of that, Matt, can you break down what the study is and why are we even involved in this?
Well, the official name of the study, it's so long that I had to write it down myself. The 2025 U.S. Chiropractic Care Satisfaction Study.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we do studies at all is because part of our mission statement is we exist to help small companies thrive.
Yes.
And so the data that we gathered nationwide from a whole ton of people, chiropractic patients, it all resolves to information that is actionable for chiropractors to use to bring more patients to their offices and help more people.
Yeah. And this is bridging the gap. Better Buyer stands for, both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of it because the insights that we have, the information that we've gathered is information for how can chiropractors give better care to their patients.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, how do people find good chiropractors?
Yes.
So that whole thing is what Better Buyer is all about.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let's talk about that. So the barriers that the survey uncovered, can we jump into what some of those barriers are for how a user or a client even finds a chiropractor in the first place?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So one of the first questions in the study, in the survey, was, have you visited a chiropractor in the last whatever it was, 5 years or something like that?
Sure.
And if the answer was no, the next question was why?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if it was yes, then they continued through the survey and started, answering questions about the facility and the care and the effectiveness and all of those types of things.
Yeah.
But this part was for those who hadn't visited a chiropractor. And the results are really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to take my glasses off in order to read. The first one that was basically 39% is uncertainty about effectiveness.
Yeah.
That's interesting. The other thing that's interesting to me, the other answer was safety concerns. And that was 33%. So nationwide, you have a large percentage,
60+%.
that are uncertain about the effectiveness and have safety concerns.
Yes.
Which to me, from a digital marketing perspective, honestly, and other communication efforts that need to be had in the community, there is a learning curve that needs to happen. The public is on a learning curve at the bottom of a learning curve.
Yeah. So education gap in understanding, both of those. Uncertainty about effectiveness or safety concerns really kind of points to the fact that people don't know what's going to happen to me when I go and I engage with this chiropractor. For a long time, chiropractic care has kind of a stigma attached to it. For
sure. Yeah.
So understanding what is it that's actually happening?
Yeah.
And so what we're saying is 70% of people are like, I haven't gone, and here's the reason why.
Yeah.
So why is that information important or interesting to us? Because it is something that chiropractors, big franchises and independent chiropractors right now could actually start thinking of, okay, this is still a stigma. It's still a thing. It's still why people aren't coming to receive care from us because they don't know.
Yeah.
And so proactively figuring out how do we answer some of those questions so that people would be warmed to the idea of receiving chiropractic care.
Yeah. So educating users as well as communicating the safety in these, what in the end is going to be likely manual manipulations to the body. So
that's right.
Yeah. What are some additional key points that you thought were interesting about these barriers?
The next one that's jumped off the page is cost and insurance. So it's like, this is always on people's minds. Like, how much is this going to cost?
Yeah.
And I'm already paying for insurance. Does my insurance cover this?
That's right.
So like, you know, again, of the no's, almost 23% of the people were like, how come you haven't gone to see a chiropractor? It's because I don't know how much it's going to cost. Or I don't know if my insurance is going to cover it.
Yeah. And quite frankly, personally, I started going to a chiropractor far more regularly once I realized that it was fully covered by my insurance.
Yes.
And so I relate to that big time.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing too, whether you're paying out of pocket or insurance coverage. I know that historically, you know, you mentioned earlier some of the challenges with chiropractic care, that the medical world and chiropractic care sometimes are at odds or perceived to be at odds with each other.
Right.
And so insurance might not always translate. I would say a key point there would be make sure your insurance does.
Yeah,
whatever
it's
chiropractor
interesting because I'd go to a chiropractor now occasionally that takes insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah.
Where my wife goes to a local chiropractor who doesn't take insurance, but her rates are far lower.
Yep.
And so, you know, if you do take insurance, then make sure that it's known by the community, because likely you'll get more walk-ins, more patients as a result of that.
I love that. Yep. Let's talk about some other key points. You know, we mentioned the patients and what some of the barriers might be. So how do patients actually learn about chiropractors? What are the results of the study that would, you know, unveil what some of those answers are?
This is the whole reason why I was asked to be a part of this conversation. And a lot of it was really interesting information relative to the digital space.
Yeah.
Now, the front runner, the answer to your question is like, how do people, you know, learn about chiropractic care? How do they get convinced?
Yeah.
Still over 50% of those people are having interactions with other people. So it's
like
referrals.
A word of mouth.
Yeah. So it's like all word of mouth.
So advocacy is still very important. Make sure you're doing a great job. Make sure that your front desk staff is friendly.
Yes.
All of the things that you can see in the study on our website, all of that's really important for advocacy's sake, because more than half of all business comes from referral.
Right.
Yeah.
What then becomes very interesting to a guy like me is all of the next 4 or 5 in a row are all in the digital marketing space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Can I just touch on those?
Yeah.
Because this is where it gets interesting. This is how Better Buyer serves the client as well as the user. So in this case, the client would be the business and then the user would be who they're serving. So we have organic search engine results that we should discuss. The SEO website evaluations, we could touch on a couple of the top ranked there. And then also some of the other things like how does social media serve the chiropractor when it comes to that forward facing presentation of themselves to what in the end is going to be their client.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is social media from an ads perspective. Spending money on social media ads is
it's very low.
Yeah, it's very low.
As far as return.
So in a study like this, thinking about, oh man, I'm spending a ton of money on social ads when really people are more likely, and I think it's like 14% or so, are more likely to click on Google ads.
Yeah.
Right? You know, but obviously the highest in digital space is the natural listings, search engine optimization, which I know you're an expert at.
Yeah. And so like that, I mean, that tracks with normal digital marketing, you know, standards. Like it's still a very low percentage of people when they search anything. We're talking about chiropractors in this particular conversation, but when they search anything, people are far more likely to click on an organic listing versus a ad that comes up on a search engine results page.
Yeah.
So in the study, our list is SEO is number one. 24% of the respondents say like, if it wasn't somebody that told me specifically, like I went to a search engine and searched it and then clicked on an organic link, not an ad.
Yep.
So SEO, organic social media, which again, in my opinion,
which was 17.28%.
Right.
So that's still a decent percentage of people that are finding or confirming a chiropractor via organic social media.
But it's almost like one of the next things, like when we're talking about social networking, it's like, it's not that uncommon if you're going to have a conversation with somebody like, oh, I'm going to shoot them this, post that I just saw that was relevant to either a conversation we've had in the past or somebody was talking about like my neck or my back is killing me, and you think of them when you see a post. Yep. So SEO, organic social media, paid search results.
Yep.
So pay-per-click advertising, online reviews and ratings, which is especially in the local space, this is huge.
Yes.
Understanding your Google business profile. And again, like you were saying, advocacy, like how do you get people to continue to be advocates for you? Like you ask them when they've received a service, can you leave us a review? Can you tell more people how great of an experience it is that you had? Like those are just, man, gobbling those up is how you can get reach to more people.
Well, and you mentioned, Google business profile, but there are, probably 100 additional places that you can have a profile. I know that your team
the directories
actually manages like for customers, like small businesses,
Yelp, and
like
things
75
like that.
local directories if you're a customer of Better Buyer. But that's really important because Google wants to see consistency across all of those as well.
Right. 100%. And so like, at the end, that was what you were making mention of at the end. It's only like 8 or 9% of social advertising that really leads to an effective, we're bringing people into the doors.
Yep.
And I thought that was interesting too. It will be interesting to see in other studies, like, does that hold true? Is social media advertising really, popping in a couple of different areas?
Sure.
And is it just low in this one?
Yeah. And it could be, that could depend across different type of chiropractors. How well is their paid social, et cetera, and the organic social? How often are they posting? That all plays a role into that. So it, really in summary, this study has just a plethora of information. The data is very forward facing. Is there anything that you would want someone to walk away from this conversation today with that would be really essential, whether it's from the perspective of the business owner or the user themselves, that they could garner from all of this data that we've gathered?
Yeah, this is mostly for the business owner, the marketer for a chiropractic office, a franchise marketer.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of beat it to death. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting is how important SEO, search engine optimization, is.
Yeah.
So much so that on that study on our website, there is a box where the local independent provider can actually request their scan of their website and what we see about their particular website and their SEO. And so I would advocate that any local chiropractor takes advantage of that and sees their results.
Yeah.
There's links for the big guys already there, so you can see what one of those would look like. But yeah, that's what my takeaway is, really.
Yeah. So really just we can provide an analysis of any of those independent chiropractors that want to see how they stack up and what they could potentially do to improve their site for searchability, which is really your expertise.
There's a lot of hidden gems inside this study for both, I thought, for both the large franchises and then also a lot of independents, where there is data that shows, mom and pop chiropractor shops, like they really can do well. So it isn't just a locked down space where it's like, if you're not one of the biggest players, nobody's coming to see you.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. A lot of good data in there.
And you're right. There is a ton of data, and we, put a lot of it online, but there's even more that can be, kind of dissected from a provider standpoint for all the different questions and things. So it was fun. It's really interesting what we came up with.
Yeah, great job on this study. It was great to talk through this with you. And then obviously any users could find this information on betterbuyer.com. So check it out. Yep. Thanks.
Oh hey, if you like this video, be sure to try out this one, or subscribe to our YouTube channel.